The algorithm is absolutely cooked. I have 39,000 followers and I get less engagement on some of my posts, most of my posts actually, than when I had 3,000 followers. And I've been chatting with a whole bunch of other creators and they feel the same way. That engagement is all over the place. Reels that normally would do well aren't even getting shown to people. Even reels, when you look at the metrics, like reels that indicate that they will do well over time, things that are getting more shares, more comments, those aren't getting the reach that they would normally get. They're not getting pushed out. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. So that leaves only one thing left to do. And I share this in a reel, but there's a Rick Rubin quote or a conversation he has with Lewis Howes on the School of Greatness podcast. Lewis Howes asked him if he ever considers what the audience will think. And he says, no, I don't consider the audience when I'm creating. I make what I need to make. And it just so happens that when I really focus on what I need to make for myself, that it usually is the thing that resonates with everybody else. And that is the real goal of all of this. Whether you make content or not, if you're presenting, a slide deck to someone at corporate, if you're having a conversation with your partner, you need to be sharing what is on your soul. The truth will set you free. And that is ultimately what I think we all need to be doing in life to have a more fun life, to let go of resentments and struggle. And all of that requires us to really connect with our soul and to feel safe enough to ultimately share what is on our soul. That is the ultimate challenge. Now, if we're talking about content, I do believe there is part of it where it's a duality conversation. You might need to be better at communicating. You might need to be a better storyteller, better communicator, all of that stuff. That is part of it. But I think the real work exists internally, in that place where you truly connect to your soul. Here's the thing: content holds the truth of your current energy. Content holds the truth of your current energy. When you chase virality, when you shame yourself because you already know the piece isn't going to be good, when you're in contraction and you're like, what does the hook need to be? And I didn't do this right, and all this stuff. People feel that. That is what people are feeling. And I think people feel it now more than ever. I think because we've gone from people's experience of social media from like 10 years ago and people being like the expert and 10 reasons or like 3 things you need to do to gain to lose 10 pounds, whatever, that whole like guru vibe. We're way past that, and people's BS detectors are so heightened, especially with AI now, and especially with our addictions to our phones and the fact that what we really want is true human connection, and we're still trying to find that over social media and our phones. I think this is going to create a massive shift to getting together in person. That's a conversation for another time. But that's what people are really craving. They are truly craving deep personal connection. And if you can learn how to connect with people, you will start to see your engagement increase. But what you need to really focus on is connecting with yourself first. How do we go inward and allow ourselves to really connect with what our soul wants to say? And I've noticed this for myself, where the truth of what I've always wanted, going back to 2020 when the world shut down and I had to restart my business and build it online, what I really wanted to do was to help people live their bold and courageous life the way I have, the way I rode my bike across America, the way I quit civil engineering. And I wanted to help people take that bold action. And I buried that for a long time, and I kind of leaned into being the marketing guy, content guy, helping people with their business, even though my business like wasn't really that successful. Um, the truth of what my soul wanted was to just help people pursue what they really wanted. I wanted to become this life coach, and I buried that for so long, and as long as you bury that, that is where all of this struggle and frustration will come from. Is because really, if you're honest with yourself deep down, you know what you truly want. And I shared this in my first episode when I talked about becoming a personal trainer. Like, I know I wanted to become a personal trainer, and I buried that for 10 years until I finally was brave enough to do it. The practice isn't to never not bury the truth of what you want. The practice is to see how fast you can catch yourself lying to yourself. What do I really want? And if I'm really honest with myself, Like, what is that? And why am I not pursuing it? What am I truly afraid of? And for me, over the years, like I would dip into this. Like I would know I would want that. I would say I would want that, but it's not available to me just yet because I have current followers who know me as the content guy and the storytelling guy, and I need to be that. And if I shift, then I'm going to lose potential clients or I won't make money. I'll end up poor, I'll end up under a bridge, and this is going to completely ruin everything. And there's a lot of scarcity in that thinking. But I don't know that that's true. But those are the true deeper fears. And so it's to meet those fears with love and grace and curiosity and to understand what those things are truly afraid of. And then it's to make the right decision for you. Does it mean throwing it all out? Never talking, like for me, never talking about content creation again? Is that the thing? Because I don't know, this is the balance I'm in. I actually love creating content and talking about content and speaking your truth. So where's the balance there? And I'm kind of offering that to you. Like, do you need to completely switch? Do you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and go all in? Kind of like how I quit engineering and just moved to Colorado to be a personal trainer without a job, without anything set up. I had to just go all in. I had to. I couldn't do that in New York City. I couldn't ease my way out of it. Well, in ways I did ease my way into it by getting my certification, by coaching CrossFit part-time and taking on a client while I was in New York City and while I was an engineer. But I kind of left all that behind and moved to Colorado with no real plan. And that was a real giant leap. Do you need to take that giant leap? Or is there a bit of a transition? Can you start weaving what you truly want in smaller ways? You start to gain confidence. So it's not just so dysregulating for yourself. There's no right way. I think the only one way to really understand it is to wake up and journal and meditate every day and to ask yourself these questions. What do I truly want? What am I so afraid of? Can I offer the part of me that's so afraid a bunch of love? And can I truly connect with what my soul wants to say and share? And then start taking the bold action to do those things. Again, whether that's a huge leap or that's maybe little pieces of content. Maybe it's creating a burner account on Instagram and starting to talk about what you truly want to talk about and building a new audience over there and never talk about the old thing you used to talk about. But the longer you continue to bury what your soul really wants to say, the longer you will live in this contracted and frustrated and anxious energy. And I'm not free of that. But this is the practice I continue to work on. And coming on here and creating a podcast that feels like it's coming from my soul. I'm not committing to an every Monday schedule that you're going to get a podcast. The last podcast was like about 2 weeks ago. And I could feel myself wanting to create. And then I was like, I just have to, I need to show up. I need to be consistent. Let's just make something up, dude. You could talk about anything. But nothing really felt aligned. And so I just didn't do it. And I just waited. I waited until this morning when I had this idea about the algorithm being cooked and it came from a conversation with another creator friend who said her engagement's all over the place and it's so unpredictable. And then I got fired up when I sent her a voice note. And then I watched that Rick Rubin clip and I was journaling on it for myself. Actually, I was journaling on it for myself. Then that girl sent me that message. And I was like, oh, funny enough, I was just journaling on that this morning. And then I was preparing a training for my mastermind group. And I was going through some content because I want to share some content with them. Whatever. I don't want to explain the whole exercise. But then that's when I found the Rick Rubin clip. I'm like, yeah, this is it. And then I was just fired up. And so I made the post. I made a post on Instagram. And then I was like, oh, this is what the podcast gets to be about. I'm lit up about. This is what my soul really wants to say. And I release all inhibitions and fear and judgment. And I just let myself pour into the momentum of that. And it's beautiful. And yeah, and then I think the conversation of like, well, there is value, or what's coming through for me right now is like, well, there's value in being consistent. And so it's being honest with yourself with that too. I have a lot of my clients, I like to use the metaphor of a gym. Some people don't need the perfect training plan. Some people just need to be the person that goes to the gym. So I don't care what you do in the gym. Walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes. You just need to become the person who goes to the gym consistently. You need to become a person who starts lifting weights. So do 3x10 bicep curls on Monday and 3x10 air squats at the gym on Tuesday. I don't care. Be in the gym for 3 minutes. Just become a person who comes to the gym. That's what you need to do. And then once you become that person, then you can focus on the better training plan. Then you can really get more clear on your goals. And that's where some people are at. Even if you've been creating content for a long time, but you've been on and off, and you don't really know your message, all this stuff, then you just need to become a person who shows up consistently. And in that consistency, you will actually get more clarity on what you really want, what you really want to get known for. Maybe you've done that enough, and maybe now your goal is to actually have a little more boundaries on what you're talking about so you can actually become known for something. So everyone's at a different place. For me, it's not consistency that's the problem. It's really coming back to my soul. I'll show up all day. In fact, I've been showing up on Instagram every day for the last, I think, 2 weeks or so. Just a commitment to myself that I would just make a piece of content every day. And the whole goal is to practice this, exactly what I'm talking about. Can I? Can I create every day and release the fear of, or release the need to get more likes and all of that? And it's been challenging. And I've been noticing moments for myself of, like, just the other day, like I had a few videos do well, and then I get stuck in the loop of like, oh, I need to talk about that. And then I see another friend that I really love talking about something similar to me. And I'm like, well, he's getting a lot more engagement with way less followers. And I'm like, oh, I need to say it like him. And then I realized, oops, I did that thing where I was sacrificing my soul to the algorithm. And that's, that's the name of the game. Sacrifice our soul for the algorithm. We sacrifice our soul for what society says we need to do. We sacrifice our soul for not upsetting people, for staying in the norm. But the people who really create change in the world don't do that. The people who change the world seem a bit crazy, seem like they're creating maybe tension with another bucket of people, but they're calling they're true people, the people who get it, the people who believe in it. That's what really starts to create a movement. But you don't call those people in and get to be a leader for a movement without upsetting a few people along the way. That's just what it takes. But we sacrifice our soul to people please. We don't want to upset anybody. So we dilute our story. We dilute our truth. And ultimately what you're doing is diluting yourself. And you can feel that. You can feel that. And we dilute ourselves for the algorithm. We dilute ourselves for hopefully more likes. But what's the end game? Hopefully, if I get more likes, when I get more likes, then I'll have more clients and I'll make all this money. Then what? One day, I'll just be able to get to create whatever content I want. I'll actually get to create content from the soul. Create content from the soul now. That's how you get there. You build that trust inside of yourself. You build that self-love for yourself. That what you truly want and how you truly want to feel and how you want to create content and how you want to go about this world and live isn't dictated on if you get all of these things. That's living conditionally. Only if I make all this money, then I can. Right? If, then. No, it's not like that. You go get clear on what you want and who you want to be, and you do the things to become that person. And it's scary and it's hard. And that's why that's the work. That is the work. You take action and then you check in with yourself. Was I diluting myself? Was I acting in fear and scarcity? And when the answer is yes, you give yourself a tremendous amount of love for the part of you that was doing that. I get why this part of Matt needs to find validation from a post that gets 250 likes and 50 comments. Which brings up another conversation. Like, do you even know what would be enough? If you had a reel that did get 200 likes and 50 comments, would that be enough? If you did get a reel that had 200 likes and 50 comments, 50 shares, 100 saves, what would that do for you? And it's likely your answer might be, oh, I get it now. Now I know what to do. But that's actually another clip I saw Rick Rubin talk about. That's the biggest trap there is. Thinking that you figured it out. There's no figuring it out, really. There's just the constant evolution of like, did I like that? Did that bring me energy? If a post gets 200 likes and 50 comments and you fucking hated making it, then why would you make that thing again? What is the ultimate end goal? To live a life where you hate what you're doing? Of course not. It's to live a life where you love every single second of every single moment. And so that's why this is the path. To right now, in this moment, get clear on where the path isn't fun and joyful and filled with love. And to meet those parts of you with love. and to create space for them to express themselves and understand what they truly want, and then see if the next time you go create something that you can do that with more love and joy, because the algorithm is cooked. Nobody knows what's going on. So the only thing that's left to do is to create from your soul. Create things that you love. Create things that while you're creating them make you feel so excited, magnetic, alive. And if you do that, well, then what else do you need to do? Because all we have is the present moment. And if you create something and in the creation you are feeling magnetic, love, alive, then there's nowhere else to be. You're doing it. And that's beautiful. That's the goal. See you next time.